Good evening, everybody from Orlando. Hope you're staying well, staying safe and staying indoors if you can. Yesterday contained quite a lot of news actually from the US and from Florida about COVID-19. President Trump and his task force gave the usual daily press briefing. It was something a little bit out of the ordinary yesterday, and he said several things that might have a bearing on when the US may open up both domestically and internationally. He talked about the creation of an economic task force, and that's going to include many people from many different walks of life and industries, as well as healthcare professionals. He also was asked a question by John Sopel of the BBC about when he might consider opening up the borders. So I'll talk about that. And he also stated clearly that he alone would decide when states reopen. So I'm going to touch on that as well in the news, and then I'll give my take on what that actually means reading between the lines as I read it. In Florida, the National Guard has been deployed. The Surgeon General of Florida was removed from a press briefing, I'll tell you why. And a ton of N95 masks and other equipment is on its way to Florida too. So all good news, and I'm going to expand upon that in the news section, and then I'll give you my take on the reopening up of borders domestically and internationally. So stay with me for that. Let's go to the news now. On April the 13th, the US had its best day since March the 31st for the number of new cases in a day, at 23,640. That's down from a peak of over 33,000. At President Trump's COVID-19 press briefing on April the 13th, BBC reporter John Sopel asked a very important question, which is, one of the things we saw in your video about was the travel ban from Europe. As part of reopening America, do you want to reopen the borders so that people from Europe, the UK, and at that point President Trump intervened and said, at the right time, very good question. Well, I would have to take a look. I wouldn't say Italy is doing great right now, and I wouldn't say Spain is doing great right now. We just heard that France is extending its stay inside order, right? They've extended it. I've just seen that, I think for a short period of time. But no, when they're back, we want to do it very quickly. But we want to make sure everything is good. Right now we have a very strong ban. We are going to keep it that way until they heal. And Sopel said weeks, months, and Trump said, well, I can't tell you that. I have to see how they're going. I mean, France just went another 2 weeks. We have to see. At the same press briefing, President Trump said that he had total authority to open up all of the states. And he was asked on several occasions how that was, because that isn't what it says in the Constitution. He just rebutted everything that anybody had to say to him and said, yep, basically he has got total authority, it's down to him and not the governors. The press briefing on April the 13th was actually very busy. Among what President Trump said was that he was forming an economic task force to look at reopening the country, and that was going to be the great and the good of industry. He also, as a kind of aside at the end, said it's going to also have healthcare professionals in it. So that means to me that he's looking more at economics than he is at health. I think he's going to take a bit of a gamble. There has been a lot more talk now of reopening the US, just not a date or an absolute time been put on it. So Andrew Cuomo, who's the governor of New York State and has been a bit of an adversary of Trump lately, also weighed in on this. He didn't give a time either, but he's going to be working with states around and about New York to try and get the policy correct for all of those states. New York State obviously has been the hardest hit of any of the states, at nearly 200,000 cases and over 10,000 deaths, so more than 3 times the cases of the next nearest state, which is New Jersey. In Florida, the trend's also a little bit downwards for new cases, which is great. We had just over 1,000 on the 13th and about 850 on Sunday. On Tuesday afternoon, Governor DeSantis announced that we were going to get 1 million N95 masks and 1.2 million procedure masks, along with other medical equipment, which is great. I didn't hear that we had a shortfall, but I guess we need all we can get right now, so that's all good news. Some not so good news is that Florida Surgeon General Scott Rivkees was removed from Governor DeSantis' press briefing on Monday after he voiced an opinion which I guess wasn't what DeSantis wanted to hear. Rivkees was asked about social distancing and said it's going to be here until we get a vaccine. And when he was asked about the time for a vaccine, he said about a year. So he was then escorted out the room. Florida has a very ageing population, and on Monday Governor DeSantis sent in the National Guard as a strike team to conduct tests on residents and staffers at nursing homes and assisted living facilities. They've been sent to 93 facilities across Florida in order to do some more testing to try and prevent coronavirus spreading. There you have the news then over the past day, and I did miss Surgeon General Jerome Adams's comments, which were from 2 or 3 days ago, I believe. But nonetheless, all good stuff and all very interesting. So my take on all of this, President Trump's briefing from yesterday, what the Surgeon General said and what the governors have said. So I believe that President Trump said that he had total authority, not because I think he does, and I'm not a constitutional scholar. Constitutional scholars will say he doesn't, that rests solely with the governors. I believe he did that to kind of ratchet up the governor's commitment to opening up sooner rather than later. Surgeon General Jerome Adams stated that he thought certain areas could open up from May the 1st. I think they're the less populated states. I don't think he means Florida for a second, or New York or anywhere like that, but maybe Montana, the Dakotas, Wyoming, places like that have had very few cases. And the governors, there's two pacts formed, one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast, so they're kind of forming alliances to say, okay, well, we'll open our states down here and we'll open our states down here at a certain time. Now, they haven't said when, and they have said that they're going to take healthcare advice as well. But it's, again, everybody in the country, I believe, wants to open the borders, wants to reopen the economy. It's just when. So Surgeon General Jerome Adams is saying May the 1st. I think President Trump would love to get some things open by May the 1st. And I think they will. I actually do think they will. And I think it's going to be quickly followed. Once they've got the wedge in, I think that's quickly going to be followed by other states. And exactly when other states will come along is anybody's guess right now, but I think there are going to be many states open before June the 1st. Now, question is, will Florida be one of them? I do believe that the Surgeon General of Florida was removed from the briefing because he went against what might be coming out to be policy from Governor Ron DeSantis, and Governor Ron DeSantis is a very close associate of President Trump, so they're going to follow in lockstep. So if President Trump says open up, or moots open up, DeSantis I think will open up. He might have pushback from certain elements of mayors in different cities and counties, but we'll have to see what happens there. So that brings us around to, when will Orlando open? When will Orange County open? When will Osceola County open? And does that mean that Disney is going to be opening? And does that mean that Disney's going to be reopening, and SeaWorld and Universal Orlando? And I still believe that the resorts are going to open first, somewhere between the 1st and 14th of June, and I still think there's going to be at least one theme park open in Walt Disney World, probably Magic Kingdom, by the 4th of July, so we'd celebrate Independence Day. And I think Universal will have one or more of its resorts open, as they're now taking bookings as well from 1st of June, and one theme park on or around 1st of July. SeaWorld, I can see that being open by the 1st of July as well. Whether water parks will be open, I doubt it, but I think all of the three big theme park operators will have a theme park operating by the 1st of July. So very interesting, very interesting news yesterday, and I'm going to keep on top of it and see where this takes us, because now that the reporters have started asking those questions, I can only think that they're going to continue asking those questions, and they're going to continue pumping President Trump for answers. And he was there for a long time yesterday. He's got to be busy, but he stood there and he answered questions for an hour and a half yesterday, and I think he wants those questions, and I think he partially wants to open them. But let's see where this all goes, and I'll be back in a couple of days, unless something really terrific happens tonight. As I'm doing this now, there is another press briefing from President Trump and the COVID-19 task force team. So I'll have a little recap of that this evening, and if there's anything spectacular, I'll bring you that tomorrow. If not, it'll be the following day. By the way, I see that we've reached a month now. We're into 30 days now for the theme parks being closed. Every day that goes on, there's going to be more and more pressure to reopen. So again, watch this space. I'll bring it to you as I get it. Until then, stay safe, stay well, stay indoors, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye. Hey all. So there was some late breaking news, and here it is. You might be able to hear in the background that the COVID-19 press briefing is still going on for April the 14th. So this happened 2 minutes ago, where President Trump said that some states may be able to open before May the 1st. And he reckoned that there are at least 20 that are in good shape. So that's pretty big news. So if those 20 or so are in good shape to open around May the 1st, he says maybe before, then what does that mean for the rest of America? Sorry, and what I didn't say in the main video is, when are we going to open up the borders internationally? And that's obviously a big thing for people from Europe who come in their droves to Orlando. So if we're going to get things moving in the States here by May the 1st-ish, then I would think that by August we're going to have planes flying into Orlando, or strategic points, if not Orlando, strategic points in the States where temperature checks and other things, I don't know what things might be, but things that can happen in order to make sure that people who come here are fit to be travelling into the US. So I think that's really exciting news. Now, again, who'll want to come in August? I don't know, from Facebook groups that I'm on, it seems that there's a real mixed bag of opinion. Some people want to come, some people really want to come. Some people are saying, I ain't going anywhere close to that thing till there's a vaccine, or sometime in 2021, or both, or whatever. But, that's what I'm taking from this today. I think it's coming sooner than later. Okay, so I'm going to say bye-bye for the second time today, and see you all soon. Bye again.